Welcome to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour with your hosts, the ConKaiserdor and Old School Avis Hathaway. Pin me, pay me, do your job. Pin me, pay me, do your job. Pin me, pay me, do your job. Pin me, pay me, do.
This is the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour right here on Blog Talk Radio. I am the ConKaiserdor, and alongside with me is Old School Avis Hathaway. And tonight we have another great show lined up for everyone. We have lots of news and notes on the upcoming WWE Raw 1000th episode, plus Chavo Guerrero Jr. joining TNA, and hot off the press, rumors of Karma, also known as Awesome Kong, possibly being released from WWE, and so much more. Plus, a little later, we'll be joined by the self-proclaimed King of Florida, Francisco Ciatso. So don't go anywhere, as we're going to bring you the best right here live on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour. Old School Avis Hathaway, what it be there, bro?
Doing well, bud. Refreshed after a week off, ready to hit the ground running. Before we get started too much into the wrestling talk, I do want to have one serious note, though. I would just personally, as a person that lived just outside of Aurora, Colorado for many years, like to extend my deepest sympathies to everyone that was affected by the tragedy in Aurora. I've been to that movie theater many times. It was right down the street from my house. So, hate to be a buzzkill, but I want to start it off by just sending out some sympathies for that.
Absolutely. I mean, what a tragedy. I went to go see the movie last night, and just terrible to hear about that news.
Yeah, it really was. It kind of hits home, like I said, especially to me. I mean, I've been to that theater several times. It was right by my house. My brother-in-law, my sister's brother, had a bunch of friends that were actually at the theater when it happened. They weren't in that auditorium. They were in a different auditorium. And, you know, it's crazy when something like that happens anywhere. But, I mean, you never know what goes through people's minds. So, you know, heartfelt sympathies, and, you know, I hope wish everyone the best.
Well, thank you, Debbie Downer, for really taking the show in the right direction there, bud.
I know. I started it off on a bad foot, but let's get into the wrestling talk and cheer things up a little bit.
Yeah, we have a lot to get to in the world of wrestling, and also we have a lot to get to later, as, like I said, Francisco Ciatso will be joining us on the show. So a lot of great stuff. So you want to kick it off with the news, Old School? Is that where we're heading?
I guess that's the direction we're going in.
All right, well, let's kick it off here.
Are you ready?
It's time for the top stories, news, and headlines. Break it down.
All right, let's take a look at the news headlines of the week. Starting off with, I think we have to start off, tomorrow marks the 1000th episode of Monday Night Raw, making it pretty much the longest-running episodic television show, as they like to tout, in television history. It's moving to 3 hours, and it should be pretty action-packed with a lot of stuff. A lot of past names, legends, all kinds of people will be there. Nobody's really quite sure what to expect, but it should be pretty interesting.
Now, did you say that they like to tout? Is that what you said?
I did. A little play on words. The new tout service also that the WWE, I believe they actually have some sort of ownership stake in, but they're really pushing. It's kind of new Twitter-ish kind of thing. You post 15-second videos, but I don't want to get too much into an advertisement for tout, but yes, I did say that.
I did see that when I watched, I believe it was SmackDown, and I just said to myself, what the hell is this? I never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, you know, I never heard of it either, and I noticed them talking about it on Twitter. I asked on Twitter if somebody would tell me what the hell it is, and somebody did respond and kind of explained it to me, and apparently you post 15-second videos, and people can respond with their own videos and kind of interact that way. So it seems like it's almost like there's Twitter where you do your typing. Instagram's kind of the same thing, but with pictures. This is kind of the same thing, it seems, but with videos. So whether it'll take off or not, I don't know. I think social media is a pretty saturated market, but I guess there's always room for something else.
Sounds a little cheesy there, but Speaking of the 1000th episode of Raw, my local paper here, the Baltimore Sun, recently interviewed Jerry the King Lawler, who was quoted by saying that there are almost 30 superstars from the past 1,000 episodes that are going to be coming back and joining that Raw show. That's pretty huge.
That is huge, and the Baltimore Sun is, it's a great avenue to read about wrestling. They used to have Kevin Eck there, who now works for the WWE, but just want to throw that out there. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. Nobody knows who all is going to be there for sure. You expect to see The Rock and maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels. They've been plugging the DX reunion, which I'm interested to see because I want to know if it's just going to be HBK and Triple H, or if they're going to bring in. Road Dogg already works for WWE as an agent. Maybe they could bring him in. If they'll bring an X-Pac, Billy Gunn, nobody knows. But I hope it's a full reunion, probably without Chyna because she's a train wreck. But, the more the merrier, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's true. And Chyna's name did come up in our last interview with Hardcore Heather Owens, which, by the way, I just want to comment on that. That interview was not only one of my personal, if not my most personal favorite interview that we've ever done, for many reasons. But all I can say is, wow, that interview has blown up. It has officially exceeded 700 listeners since 2 weeks ago. That is absolutely humongous.
Yeah, that is one of our most listened to shows. I know Gilbert was up there in the high 700s, I believe. I think this is probably got to be the second most listened to show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the second highest, and it's on pace. It's actually on the doorstep of the Gilbert interview. It's that close to it, and it's only Gilbert. We're talking, that was one of our first interviews that we did way back when we first started the show, so this interview is barely 2 weeks old, and look at what it's done already.
Yeah, it's great to see, especially somebody like Heather Owens, who may not be a household name to a lot of people, but hopefully now people are learning about her, maybe checking her out on YouTube. I know also the interview we did prior to that with Nui Tofinga, that one did very well in and of itself in its own right. I believe it was well over 500 last I had seen. So obviously people are reacting to some of the guests we're having, and we greatly appreciate it. We strive to do is bring a good mix of people, into different markets. Maybe you're not familiar with somebody out of Ohio or the Midwest, and you get to look at them, you get to see them, and you get to learn about new superstars, and that's what our aim is.
You are listening live to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour on Blog Talk Radio. If you want to call into the show, you can at 714-694-4101. Also, jump into the chat room, which is available on our blogtalkradio.com/doyourjob page. And if you're not keeping tabs with us on Facebook and Twitter, you are missing out. You can follow us on Twitter at doyourjob with underscores between the J.O.B. And also just do a quick search for us on Facebook, the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour, as our list of followers on both Twitter and Facebook is going up by the day. So kind of getting back to the news, Old School, there's some other big stuff going on with TNA.
I'm sorry, before I get into that real quick, I also want to throw out, if you're following us on Twitter, also go ahead and give a follow to Y2 Jibber Jabber, at Y2 Jibber Jabber. He's the third man in the booth. Get a lot of great information and news there as well. Going back to what you were talking about, TNA, we do have a few different things to talk about with TNA, first of which would be Chavo Guerrero. He's going to be joining TNA.
He is. I did see the promo for Chavo Guerrero Jr. joining TNA. Not too sure what to expect with this, as I don't know what he's going to be bringing to TNA and how they're going to be using him, so I'm cautiously optimistic here.
Chavo is a guy that obviously in WWE never quite got his run, so to speak. He had some programs. Obviously, he had the Kerwin White thing, which I think was a joke, but I'm interested to see what TNA does with him. That said, I don't think he's a guy that really needs to be taking up much TV time on TNA, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense. I'm just not, like I said, I'm not really sure how they're going to be using him and what the point of Chavo is, but, it's cool to see him there. I know he's doing some work on the indies in Texas and stuff like that, so it is cool to kind of see him there. But, hey, you know what? We're going to take a quick break because when we come back, we're going to be joined by the self-proclaimed King of Florida, Francisco Ciatso, right here live on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour on Blog Talk Radio.
Join the Do Your Job revolution and download past shows on demand at blogtalkradio.com/doyourjob. Check out our extensive library of classic shows with Jesse Neal, Wes Briscoe, the marquee Bruce Santee, and Gilbert, not to mention a whole lot more. There's something for everyone, all available free, on demand, and anywhere in the world, 24/7.
This is Wes Briscoe on Do Your Job Radio. Tune in to next time.
This is Roger Strong, and you're listening to the Do Your Job, which you should do your job and shut your mouth.
This is the Perfect 10 LD, calling of the Shooting Star Press on Do Your Job Wrestling Hour.
And now for our feature presentation.
I like your pants around your feet, and I like the dirt that's on your knees. And I like the way you still say please while you're looking up at me. You're like my favorite damn disease. And I love the places that we go. And I love the people that you know.
Let's welcome to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour. He is the self-proclaimed King of Florida, Francisco Ciatso. Thank you for being with us there tonight, sir.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on. We're really looking forward to this interview here tonight, and you're finally here ready to go, huh?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I've been on the road all weekend, kind of seeing some friends, and had the weekend off from wrestling, so very rare. So got a chance to go out to Tampa and see Mike and Todd Shane, just a lot of friends out there I don't normally get to see. So it's been a good weekend. So finishing it up right here on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour with you guys. So
very cool. Well, we're going to get right into wrestling here, as, of course, you've been spending a lot of your career and time in the wrestling business for many years now and have spent time in numerous places. So I did want to kind of get your thoughts, as this business is quite crazy. And so I did want to know, like, what's been the driving force for you in the wrestling business, and how the hell have you stuck around for this long?
I don't know, man, honestly. I was just talking to some friends out in Tampa today about it, and they used the term, man, I can't believe you're still at it, and Mike and Todd Shane have been out of the business for a couple of years now. They were in WWE as the Gemini. So, they're kind of doing their own thing now, and we sat down, had some lunch, and was hanging out with their family, and they said that exact thing to me. They looked at me and they said, man, I can't believe you're still at it. Every time we check your Twitter or check your Facebook, you're here, you're there, you're everywhere. Why do you keep doing it? And the only thing I can go back to is that I'm still having a blast. I love this business. I love everything about it. I love the fans. I love going up and down the road. I love the boys and just stories and just having a blast doing it. And when the day comes that it stops being fun, that's the day when I'll hang up the boots. But I don't see that time coming anytime soon.
Back in the early to mid-2000s, you spent a lot of time in NWA Florida. And obviously now you're working a lot with NWA Ring Warriors. How do you feel about the resurgence of the NWA, both in Florida and nationwide? It's kind of seeming to pick back up.
Well, I think it's great. Anytime, a company or whatever the case may be is going to be popping up all over the country and giving the guys a better place to work and a bigger stage to work off of and so on. And now, granted, some markets are definitely better than others and just like any other company would be. But at the end of the day, the NWA is the longest wrestling company. To my knowledge, I might be wrong. You guys are wrestling historians, so you probably know better than I would. But as far as I know, NWA is the longest active professional wrestling organization ever. So the fact that they're, I'm going to use your word, coming up with a resurgence and getting bigger by the day and so on and so forth, that's great for guys like me. And if I read this right, I think Adam Pearce just won the NWA World Heavyweight title once again, if I'm not mistaken. I think I might have read that. I might have misread it, so if I did, I apologize, Adam. I apologize, Wrestling World, but I think he just won the world title again. So that's he's one of my favorites, man, and congratulations to him if that is correct and I did read that right.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure about that. I'd have to check. That's news to me. I hadn't seen that obviously Adam was just at the last Ring Warriors show taking on Bruce Santee as well. So that'd be cool. I know we'll see him more on Ring Warriors, and if that is true, hopefully see him defend the belt a little bit more there. Another thing I want to touch on with you is you spent a good amount of time in Deep South Wrestling when it was WWE's developmental territory. I just want to see if you talk a little bit about kind of your experience there and, you know, how that's helped your career and kind of what you've learned there to further your careers.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, you know, that was the most invaluable, you know, time that I possibly had. I mean, it's unreal the amount that I learned in such a short amount of time. I mean, I trained under Bill DeMott for about a year and 3/4 while I was up in McDonough, Georgia, for Deep South. Joey Hamilton was there as well. Dave Taylor was one of the trainers. I mean, you know, when I came there, I thought I knew my shit. You know, come to find out, I was really just getting started. Bill DeMott really took me under his wing and really helped me out a lot. It was definitely a culture shock and a wake-up call. Even before that, I had worked for TNA back and forth between Nashville and when they came to Orlando, and I thought I knew my stuff then. But the WWE is a whole other animal. They have their set way of doing things, and Bill DeMott, his exact words to me were, "I'm going to take the indie out of your work, and I'm going to teach you, you know, the Fed way." And that's what he did. And I remember when I came back to Tampa to do a show, just a random indie show for I think it was Steve Madison and Buck Quartermain. I can't remember the name of the wrestling company that it was at the time, but I remember I came through the curtain, and Buck Quartermain grabbed me and he goes, "You're night and day." He goes, "Whatever they're teaching you up there, you're night and day." But my time there was just unreal. I mean, I got the opportunity to walk down the WWE rampway. You know, got the opportunity to work with some of the best in the entire world. I've got nothing but great things to say about my time Deep South, and Paul Heyman had a really big hand in my success at Deep South. You know, being able to work with all of those names that I just mentioned, and I'm leaving out a ton because this would have to be the Do Your Job Wrestling 4 hours. But it was I'm leaving out, you know, tons of names. But I made a lot of friends up there too. You know, a friend of mine that goes by Festus, well, was Festus in WWE. You know, MVP Antonio Banks. Just, you know, tons of friends while I was up there, and just it was a great time all around.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a rare fact that most people don't know, is that while you were in Deep South, which was at the time a WWE developmental territory, you were also doing some work with TNA. So how did you pull that off, and was there any backlash against you for doing that?
No, there was no backlash at all. In fact, it was a big rib. I remember I walked in. I can't remember what the spot was. I think we were doing. It's when the Dudleys were doing that Italian gimmick versus the Mexicans or some crap like that. And of course, I came in. They were one of the guys from The Sopranos was on there that they had brought in, and it was a big gimmick. And I came in as obviously as one of the Italians, and we did this gimmick, bop 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 bop, and did that deal. And then the very next day, I'm on Deep South TV, you know, which might as well be WWE TV. So it's like I'm working for both companies, and it was a big joke and a big rib. And I'd come walking in, they were like, "Man, we just saw you on TNA last night," you know. And then on Comcast when I was living in Georgia, of course, you know, I'd be on TNA one night and then on Deep South the next, and it was great and it was funny. You know, I thought it was great. You know, I mean, it was just a great time all around. And I remember one weekend, I think I did an indie shot on a Friday. I did a Legends. I think I did another indie shot Saturday. Then I did the Legends pay-per-view that they taped at the Hard Rock Live here in Orlando. I was Kimchi work. We did some work with Kamala under a hood. And then I drove straight to Atlanta, met up with Festus and those guys, and went right to Raw and SmackDown the following days. So it was like I was everywhere, you know, that you could possibly think. I was all those 2 years were just a whirlwind. It was unreal, all of it.
Sounds like it, and I'm glad you shared that with us. That's something a lot of people don't know. So yeah, very, very cool. I want to ask you another question, as you know, just kind of speaking of your time. You know, you've worked for another promotion that I was a huge fan of, probably back in the early 2000s, IPW, which held shows primarily in the Tampa, Clearwater area. One of my favorite events from IPW was the Jeff Peterson Cup. I always really enjoyed that. I thought that was very special. I mean, a very special thing to do, but very special to IPW. Can you talk a bit about your time spent in IPW, maybe some of the memories and highlights from there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, again, the time that I spent there, I mean, I think IPW started, if I'm not mistaken, it started in like maybe 97, 98, I think. really gotten into the business around, I guess, 95-ish, 96. I wasn't wrestling. I mean, it wasn't like it is now. There wasn't an indie show every 5 feet. You know, there was no internet. There was no streaming of this. There's no YouTubes. There's none of this stuff. So it's like, you know, when I left wrestling school after getting trained by Adrian Street at Skull Crushers, I was given a sheet with about 4 pieces of paper attached to it, stapled, with numbers that were mostly no longer valid and addresses that were no longer there. And, you know, it was like, so I had nowhere the hell to go. But somehow one number was right, and it was this guy, if I'm not mistaken, he used to go by Eddie Spaghetti. It was unbelievable. But anyway, they used to run at the Sportatorium in Tampa. I'm going around the world to go across the street, by the way, but it'll all lead to a story, so just bear with me. But they were running at the Sportatorium in Tampa, which is now a landmark and they can't touch it. But there was a group there that was running, and it was everybody from Cuban Assassin, the Navy SEAL, Butch Long, Bill Payne, Buck Quartermain, anybody who was on WCW or WWE doing jobs or whatever the case may be, they were there, and that's where Ron Nemi got his start. And of course, you know, he cut his teeth there, and then kind of moved on and created his own company with IPW. And anybody who was coming through Florida at the time that was going to make a name for themselves were, not that you had to go through Ron, but it would make things a lot easier if you did. And I remember I was working for a group called CCW over here on the East Coast as Sir Psycho Sexy. It was a horrible mask gimmick. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I had hot pink hair. It was horrible. I guess I got bored with Uptown Frankie Capone at the time or whatever the hell I was doing. But I remember I was on AOL. This shows you just how long ago it was, and I was instant messaging Ron on a friend's computer because I didn't have my own computer. And I kept asking him, "You please bring me to Tampa, please bring me to Tampa, please bring me to Tampa." And he kept just completely ignoring me. For almost a year, I think he ignored me, totally shit on me, which was fine because I didn't expect, you know, the almighty Ron Nemi to give me a time of day. So finally, out of nowhere, I don't know how he got my number, but I was at my fiance's house at the time, and I was on the can. So all of a sudden, my phone rings to the house. I don't know how he got my phone number, and I answer the phone, and I was like, "Hello," and he goes, "Frankie Capone, Ron Nemi." And I was like, "Ron, oh my God, how are you? Good to talk to you." Yeah, great. Crystal River Armory, June 10th, you and Jeremy Lopez, payday's $50. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. And the next thing, he hung up right after that. It was a dial tone, and it was gone. And I thought I'd made it in wrestling. I was like, holy shit, I'm going to work for IPW. And I came running out of the bathroom, my pants down around my ankles. I don't even think I wiped my ass. I honestly don't think I wiped my ass. I came running out. And I told my fiance at the time, oh, my God, Ron Nemi just called. She didn't give two shits about wrestling. She didn't care. She could care less. She didn't know IPW from WWE. It made no difference to her. But I'm screaming and yelling, jumping up and down like a friggin' kid in a candy store, right? So that was my introduction. And, of course, I walk into the Crystal River Armory. And to say that I didn't know crap about the wrestling business would be an understatement. I mean, I came walking in, maybe 180 pounds, maybe, with a cooler full of steamed chicken breast, distilled water, total schmuck, you know, just completely oblivious to anything in wrestling, right? So I'm walking in the locker room, and I see a cooler, and I'm like, oh, God, I'm thirsty. I want to grab this cooler. So I open up the cooler, and there's beer. And I was like, okay. So I shut that cooler and opened up the cooler next to it. More beer. So I'm so confused right now. I thought I was at a wrestling show. So I opened up the other cooler, and there's vodka and rum and this and that. I was like, there's no friggin' water. There's ice. That's it. That's all that's in here. You know, so I didn't know any better. So I was young. I was green. So I went and sat in the corner. You know, I was like, my water was warm. I wanted cold water. So anyway, I'm eating my stupid chicken breast, and Ron Nemi comes walking in. And they must have had a show the night before because there's gashes all over his forehead. There's Haystacks Calhoun Jr. in the corner drinking Jack out of a bottle. You know, no cup, no mixer, nothing, just straight Jack. You got Navy SEAL doing friggin' push-ups and Hindu squats, dripping with sweat. Mike Sullivan's over there painting his face as Freedom Rider. You got Butch Long, Bill Payne, all these crazies. And half of them were either nuts or jacked to the gills, and here's this 180-pound, wet behind the ears, nobody sitting in the corner, scared half shitless to death, not knowing what the hell was about to happen to my wrestling career at this point. And I went out, And I remember Ron comes up to me and introduces himself and shake his hand. He hands me my envelope. And to me, I thought I had made it in the wrestling business at that point because everybody who was coming through Florida wanted to be part of IPW. Went out there, and I can't remember what the match was or what the deal was or what the finish was, which that's all irrelevant really at the end of the day. But it must have been good because I got invited back. And from that point on, every time I would come to any IPW show, I would bring a 12-pack of beer, and I was coined Booked for Life Frankie Capone at that point because, you know, I learned how to play the game early on. I was like, wait a second, if I bring these guys booze, I'll be here every friggin' show. So I did, and I was there through the whole friggin' time. But it was insane. I mean, at the IPW WrestlePlex, the WrestlePlex was like a completely different world. I mean, it was this TV studio that was 100 degrees inside, and fire code-wise shouldn't have been able to hold more than 120 people. And every single weekend, man, we were packing that place in 300 strong. The people were sitting on top of each other. We had to build bleachers. No one knew what the hell they were doing. Then we got TV on UPN 44, and consequently we got on TV right almost the exact same time as TNA did. But it was an insane time. I mean, I remember one show, God rest his soul, but Macho Man Randy Savage just showed up to the WrestlePlex and asked Ron if he could just come out and cut a promo. And that's no bullshit. I'm not joking. This ain't a rib. That is the God's honest truth. I mean, we would have everybody from Macho Man show up to New Jack showing up to just, I mean, you name it, they were just randomly coming to the WrestlePlex. I mean, that was the building that Shinya Hashimoto and Steve Corino went at it in for the NWA 53rd when they did the show at the IPW WrestlePlex. So, I mean, it was just a crazy, crazy time where, honestly, I can't even do it justice in the amount of time that we have with how insane and crazy it is. And guys ask me now when they're coming up, how was it when you walked in the locker room? I said, half the time you didn't know if you were going to leave alive. You know, I mean, you had Mike and Todd Shane, jacked up 300-pound identical twins. You had the Southern Posse, Navy SEAL, Cuban Assassin, Buck Quartermain, I mean, up and down the line, Scoot Andrews, Billy Fives, blah, 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 blah. So it was absolutely crazy from top to bottom.
You know, I want to touch on something you kind of brought up there. And the fact is on the indies, and even to this day, the promo is almost a lost art. You don't see guys really cutting great and memorable promos. And that's one thing with you is you always come out, you cut a promo, win, lose, or draw in the match. It makes it a very memorable match because you come out, you talk, you get the crowd into it, whether it be to hate you, boo you, whatever it is. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the art of cutting a promo and where you think a lot of guys need to, how they can kind of learn to do that a little better?
There's really no way to learn, per se, how to cut a promo. What I try to explain to guys is speak from your heart. It's really no different than an actor putting themselves in a scene. It's really not much different. When I'm standing behind that curtain, I put myself in a mindset, depending on what I have to do. I talk from the heart. I believe in what I'm saying. And there's a quote that you'll see on my Facebook periodically or on my Twitter. It's a quote by Johnny Valentine. And he says, I can't make the people believe what I do is real, but I can make you believe that I am. I believe that wholeheartedly because, people believe what they want. They want to suspend their belief for an hour or 2 hours, whatever, when they come to a pro wrestling event. But when I come through that curtain, I want them to believe I'm the biggest scumbag to ever walk through that curtain. I'm the biggest scumbag on the earth. I want to take them out of their seat, and I want to put them in the ring and make them feel what I feel, whether it's through words or actions. And I think that's why fans love to hate me, because I give them that feeling. Whether I'm wrestling one of my best friends in the entire world or a guy I could give two shits less about, I'm going to speak from the heart. And I think that that's where a lot of, whether it's WWE, whether it's TNA, whether it's Ring of Honor, regardless, when I see a lot of these guys cut promos, no one speaks from the heart. And it's not necessarily their fault either, because, the companies themselves are telling these guys what to say and the timing, and we need you to say the word "and" at a 2-minute mark, and that's ridiculous. That's not what this is about. The reason why pro wrestling was so successful for so many years was because guys spoke from the heart. As early as the Attitude Era, with Rock and Austin and Vince and that whole, and DX and all that stuff, the reason why that was so successful and because people fell in love with pro wrestling again, because they hadn't in many, many years, and they did again in the Attitude Era, was because guys spoke from the heart. They worked from the heart. They didn't just go out there and read from a script, and because you had a deal that's coming up 2 weeks from now that you had to say this line on at this time because at this time this guy has to look to camera 7, it drives me insane. And I understand that you have to evolve as time goes on and things have to get bigger and things do change, and I'm all about change. But at the end of the day, I really think that when guys are cutting promos and coming to the ring, they have to go back with what took them to the dance. And that's when you turn around and you look at a fan or you look at a kid that's sitting in that crowd. I want that kid to either be the happiest person in the world or the most pissed off person in the world. And if one of those two things happen, then I did my job.
Well, I absolutely agree. And, I mean, I want to follow up a little bit with that because, like, as a case in point, the last Ring Warrior show, I was at that show against Shooter Storm, and you came out, you cut a promo that, I mean, the crowd hated you. I mean, literally hated you. Even if it was a 10-year-old kid who had no idea who you were, they hated you. And I think that's, like I said, kind of a lost art just for the fact that the guy you're wrestling, the guy you're in the ring with, they may not know him, they may not care about him, but automatically, if you make somebody feel that passionate about you, it's automatically getting the other guy over and getting more interest in the match. So,
well, you know, and you brought up a good point. I mean, this business is all about making each other. There was a term that the Mafia used to use, and they used to use that term, you know, a made guy. When you make someone, now that guy is now a friend, you know, a friend of ours, not just a friend of mine, and he's untouchable, and that's what my goal every time I lace my boots and every time I go through the curtain. Whoever I'm in that ring with, it's my job to make them. It is my job to make them look as good as they could possibly look, because at the end of the day, the people aren't going to remember your Shining Wizard. They're not going to remember your sliced bread number 2. They're not going to remember the move that you did or your flip-de-doo or your 17 spots. They're not going to remember that. They're going to remember how they felt. They're going to remember how you made them feel, how your opponent made them feel, how they felt when the match ended. This whole business is based on feeling. And my job is to make, whether it's Sam Shaw, whether it's Corey Chavis, whether it's Real Deal Mike Cruz, it makes no difference who I'm in the ring with. It is my job to make them look like a star. That is my job. And in turn, in doing so, I'm a star. So this, you know, to do what I do on the side that I do it on, you have to be unselfish. Because if you go into this on the side that I'm on as a selfish individual, you're not going to make it, and you're going to shit all over your opponent. And at the end of the day, our job is to go out there and entertain that fans and put an ass every 16 inches. And when you crap on your opponent and crap on the business, that kind of thing stops and people stop buying tickets. So
that's a great point. And, you know, going back to your career a little bit, you've been in the ring with, I mean, some of the greatest wrestlers around, everybody from like Roderick Strong, Brent Albright, guys like Kofi Kingston, while you're in Deep South. You know, the list goes on and on. Who are some of the guys that are your favorite, I should say, to work with?
Wow. This question always makes me go on forever, man, because it's really hard because there's so many great and talented individuals that had the honor and the pleasure of being in the ring with. God, one would definitely be off the wall Sam Shaw. Him and I have been going at it for about a year now, maybe a little bit longer, about a year and a half. One of the most talented unsigned talents, might not be for long, but one of the most talented unsigned talents in the entire, in my opinion, the entire country. If somebody doesn't pick that guy up, it's a travesty. Whether it's Ring of Honor, WWE, TNA, who cares? Somebody needs to pick this guy up. Corey Chavis, one half of the Dark City Fight Club, one half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions. He's definitely one of my favorite opponents of all time. I love being in the ring with him. Every time I'm in the ring with him, I know it's going to be a fight. I know it's going to be a great match. I know we're going to go balls to the wall and tear the roof off any building that we're in. Those are definitely two of my favorites. One of your former guests, the Marquis Bruce Santee, is probably my all-time favorite for a lot of reasons. Not for the reason of getting hit, because every time I get hit by Bruce Santee, it takes off about 5 years off my life. So we've wrestled about a dozen and a half times, so I'm probably dying next week. Those three guys that I just mentioned are part of the reason why I still do this. And I say that because they make this business fun. Whether we love each other, hate each other, fight in tooth and nail, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, when you're in the ring with a competitor like that and a performer like that, it takes you to another level. And ultimately, that's what this business is about, is taking each other to another level, and it bringing me to a point. I'm going to go off on tangent, so I apologize. When I was in China with, God rest his soul, also, Dr. Destiny Williams and Terry Taylor, I remember sitting at a corner table till about 4:30 in the morning, and they were talking about like the old, Mid-South days and territory days and so on. And when you would hear about, for instance, if this was old territory days, I would hear about a Corey Chavis in Florida, and I would be in Memphis, and I would tell the booker or the promoter, hey, there's this guy Corey Chavis down in Florida that I met. We got to bring him into Memphis. He's a moneymaker. I can make money with this guy. We can earn with this guy. And back then, that's what the business was about, was bringing guys in to elevate each other and elevate the business as a whole, and that is a lost art. There's very little, if none of that anymore in the business. So, when I think of guys that if this was back in the territory days, those guys that I just mentioned would definitely be, some of my favorites. Also, as much as I hate to say it, it's the biggest pain in the ass of my life, Tokyo Monster Kahagas is another one of the most talented unsigned talents in the entire country. Another one that has no business sitting home while WWE and TNA are coming to town. So, and those are independent, definitely independent wrestler-wise. Those are my favorites.
Well, those are some really good names. Now I'm curious to know, maybe in some of the bigger companies, TNA, Ring of Honor, WWE, anyone there that you haven't worked with before that you think you'd have some magic with in the ring?
Oh, wow. Another question that just totally, completely blows me out of the water. First guy that comes to mind is definitely Dolph Ziggler. I remember him when I was at Deep South, and I think he was at OVW, if I'm not mistaken, went off to do that cheerleader gimmick that they were doing. I think it was like 6 of them or 8 of them or however many was. Guys just did backflips to the ring. That's what I remember.
Spirit Squad.
Spirit Squad, that's it. And I remember he used to always stick out, in my mind. And then when they repackaged him and did the whole thing that they're doing now, he's one of the few guys that I really enjoy watching. He's just got this natural talented ability, and he's just so friggin' good in the ring. I mean, it's just, for lack of a better term, he's just so good. And he's a natural at it. And he's definitely, taken a while to get to where he is. And that's another thing I respect because he never gave up, and he's still got a lot of years to go yet. And he's still young and he's in shape. And as long as he stays healthy, I definitely think he'll go on to, great things. He's definitely one of the ones that I think I would have a tremendous match with and be honored to be in the ring with.
Okay, I want to ask you about Ziggler just for a minute while it's fresh in your mind. You mentioned Dolph Ziggler, and it seems like for Ziggler, with him, he was really forced quickly down the throats of a lot of WWE fans and maybe wasn't ready so quickly to be pushed to the masses that fast. And it seems like it took him quite a long time to get to the point he's at now. Can you talk about that a little bit, maybe from your vantage point in the business, maybe why it took so long for him to catch on?
I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on within the company. Sometimes they'll force feed certain, they'll throw so much at the fans at one time, different angles, different things. Maybe you got The Rock coming in. Maybe you got CM Punk doing this over here, and you got John Cena saluting the fans in the back, and you got the Big Show coming out, and this and that. And here comes Dolph Ziggler, and he's incredible, and he's phenomenal, and he's doing his gimmick, and he's got the platinum white hair, and he's coming out with a Vicky Guerrero. I believe it's with Vicky Guerrero, right? Coming out with Vicky Guerrero and doing that thing, and it's like you almost get to the point where no matter how good you are, how good you perform in the ring, you kind of get lost in the shuffle, even in a company like WWE, And I think that's probably what ended up happening was he just ended up getting lost in the shuffle. It's not a shot at him because he's phenomenal. I mean, there's nothing. I don't think I've seen him have a bad match. I mean, I'm sure he has because everybody has, but he's one of those guys where he's just really good, and I just think that's what ended up happening is there's so many big names and so many monstrous characters in the WWE and during that time where he was coming up that I think that's probably what happened. But I think a lot of that's starting to die down now, so I mean maybe he'll get the due that you feel he should get or other fans think he should get or whatever the case may be. I really hope he does, because personally I think he's, all around just great. I mean, everything, promo-wise, the whole 9 yards. So. You
are listening live here to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour on Blog Talk Radio. If you're tuning in live, you can call into the show at 714-694-4101. Also, jump into the chat room, which is available on our blogtalkradio.com page /doyourjob. Great interview so far, Frankie. Really cool stuff. A lot of great stories, a lot of insight on the business as well. So greatly appreciate your time here tonight. Got some other questions to get into here with you, as a question that's been on my mind since we started the show here is, I know you've worked for many promoters over the years, probably more than you can probably count. So with the popularity and accessibility of social networking, you can now pretty much find both former and current workers in the business airing out their dirty laundry about not getting paid, other types of underhanded business practice, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what are your thoughts on this new trend on Facebook and Twitter? And do you have any experiences dealing with dishonest promoters?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, of course. I know you're not asking anybody to do that. But anybody who's in any form of entertainment, I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're a pro wrestler. I don't care if you're in a band. I don't care if you're an actor or a model or whatever. You're going to deal with dishonest people, especially when it has to do with money. Very rarely, if ever, will you ever hear me air my dirty laundry about any promoters or really about, for the most part, anybody in general, if it's not really done as a tongue-in-cheek. I was taught a long time ago in this business, and even now so more than ever. I was talking to a friend of mine today about that old term, 7 degrees of separation. There is no more 7 degrees of separation. There's barely 1 degree of separation now with social media between Facebook, Twitter, and so on and so forth. So I've always believed that you meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. I believe in karma. Karma's a bitch. It really is. And when you treat people badly and you try to screw people over, eventually it's going to come back to you. I've been on plenty of shows, and where, oh, brother, the house is a little light, this, that, or the other. Really? You have to tell me that the house is a little light? There's 16 people there, and you have to tell me that the house is a little light? You have 400 chairs on the floor. Excuse me, there's 400 people out there that are just dressed up as chairs, jackass. But yeah, I know the house is a little light. So, but unfortunately, when you're not dealing with contracts and you're dealing with independent wrestling, you take a risk. Not only do you take a risk in the ring, but you take a risk with, not getting paid. It hasn't. I'm not going to sit here and say it hasn't happened to me, because it has. But I guess I'm one of the lucky ones, and it hasn't happened often. It happened a few times, in the business when I first started. The only person that I'll ever throw under the bus, for the most part, you'll ever hear me say anything bad about, is that piece of crap Jerry Gray that I handed money to when I was a kid. I think I was 19 or 20 years old, and I handed him $1,000 to train me, and the guy skipped town. I think I went to his school for about 2 days, and then he skipped town, and I haven't seen him since. But that's the only guy that you'll ever hear me bury. But as far as promoters and so on like that, it happens, and it's just unfortunately it's the nature of the beast. It's very rare now to me. I mean, I can't remember the last time someone stiffed me on a payday or tried to pull the house a little like garbage. But it does happen a lot. But I do see guys a lot of times putting promoters on blast, putting this guy on blast, putting that guy on blast, and teach their own. I just choose not to do it. I try to, at the very least, keep an aura about myself that everything's great and I'm better than them and I'm better than everybody and so on and so forth. Obviously, I'm the king of Florida, so I'm better than everybody. So.
All right, we got one more question out of the chat room I want to ask you. It's from Y2 Jibber Jabber, one of our regular listeners, and he wants to know if there's a good rib story or story from the road you can share with us.
Yes, I knew that. I knew someone was going to have a question like that. Yeah. There's quite a few, but the one that comes to mind. I was doing some tryout matches with ECW back in I can't remember the year that ECW closed down, but it was that year that they had closed down, and I was traveling with. I had the opportunity to travel with Johnny Swinger, Tony Mamaluke, and James Vandenberg, the Devil. So very eclectic group of individuals. So James Vandenberg is one of my favorite characters ever in wrestling, and he's James Vandenberg 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He's always the Devil. So we're traveling to New Orleans, I believe, and we had a house show in Pensacola the next day. So we arrive in New Orleans, and we're partying our asses off the night before, and they ended up staying at some frat house. of all places, and it was a really good night, to say the least. I won't elaborate on anything else for obvious reasons, but now, granted, we used to do this thing on the road with points, because I was green and new, and I had to earn points, for different things. I can earn, if I got us a good deal on a hotel room, so I would get 50 points and so on and so forth. So anyway, next morning I get up, and I'm always up early because I'm a freak of nature and I don't sleep. So I get up, and Vandenberg's up. It's like he came out of his coffin, I guess. I don't know, but he was wide awake and in his devil suit, and he was in his red suit, and it was insane. And he comes up to me and he goes, Capone, do you have the car keys? And I was like, yeah, I've got them. Swinger put them in my bag last night because I'm driving the next leg. And he goes, may I have the keys, Capone? And I was like, Vandy, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. We're not going anywhere till like noon. And he goes, I want to put my bags in the car, young man. Let me put my bags in the car. I said, okay. So I pop the keys to him and go back to sleep. Whatever, lay down, whatever, relax. Because I know we're not leaving for a few hours, so I was reading the book. Whatever I was doing, all of a sudden an hour goes by. I don't hear the door open. Hour and a half goes by. Swinger comes down in a towel. He's got out of the shower. Hey, Frankie, where's Vandenberg? I said, I don't know. He said, I went to put the keys in the car, or went to put his bags in the car. Swinger looks at me and he goes, no shit. Goes running outside of the front of this frat house in a towel, dripping, soaking wet. Car's gone. Vandenberg stole our rental car. Now, again, this is like, I can't remember the year, but not everybody had cell phones, so just take your pick of the year, I guess. So cell phones weren't prevalent like they are now. So he's like, shit. He's like, he stole our car. What are we going to do? He's not going to come back. He's probably 6 in the bag already. I don't know what's happening. We got to get to friggin' Pensacola. You just lost all your points. And I'm like, shit, I have like 300 points. I can't take all my points away. So about an hour later, but this is a big deal. I mean, he stole a friggin' rental car, so yeah, I can see I lost all my friggin' points. So all of a sudden, Vandenberg comes pulling up. Maybe about half hour, 45 minutes later, comes walking in, obliterated. Absolutely, it's like 10 o'clock in the friggin' morning, and all I smell is beer. There's nothing but beer on his breath. We get in the rental car, there's beer cans all over the place. He had spent the better part of the last hour driving in Swinger's rental car, which, by the way, I gave him the keys for again, and drinking an entire case of, like, Bud Light, driving around New Orleans. I mean, and it was absolutely insane. And I remember the look on Vandenberg's face when he walked in, and he goes, Capone, I like you. You allowed the devil to have his drink in the morning. And then he just passes out the backseat of the car, and we don't hear another word from him until we pull into Pensacola. Not another friggin' word. And he sat there in his devil suit the entire ride, asleep, burping and farting and being gross all the way to Pensacola. So that's my road story.
It's a great story. I'm sure, as I can see in the chat room here, that definitely appeased Y2 Jibber Jabber. So I'm sure other listeners as well enjoyed that story too. That's definitely one to remember. We're going to go ahead and break into what we call the name game. So the rules are really simple. We're going to throw out a name, word, or phrase to you, and you can reply with whatever the first one that comes to mind, a story. You can elaborate. I'm sure you'll have no problem with this. All right. So the first thing we're going to give you here is Team Santee.
Oh, here we go. Oh, wow. Team Santee. So you got Bruce Santee, you got Nick Fame, and unfortunately Maxwell Chicago. I think that's all of Team Santee. I think it is. Honestly, all kidding aside, Nick Fame, believe it or not, is definitely one of my favorites. I know I spoke about Bruce earlier, so I'll talk about his team members. Nick Fame is an incredible talent. Another up-and-comer. The fact that he's not signed to, at the very least, a TNA contract at this point is ridiculous. The guy's in incredible shape. He's come a long way. He was a little friggin' douchebag when I first met him. He didn't shut the fuck up, but he was cocky, arrogant, so on and so forth, thought he knew everything. But he's come a long way. He's got one of the best drop kicks I've ever seen in professional wrestling ever in my entire life. One of the best drop kicks. I don't know it's like he floats in the air and just stays there. He can, like, eat a sandwich. He's up there so long. But he's an incredible talent. And the fact that he comes out to that song from Top Gun when they were playing the friggin' volleyball pops me every time. Pops me every friggin' time. Then there's Maxwell Chicago. As much as I hate to put him over, and I'm sure when I see him on Tuesday night when I go to FUW to visit, I'm sure I can guarantee you he's going to be smiling from ear to ear because I said something good about him. But he's entertaining. He's one of the most entertaining people. Unfortunately, I hate it. I'm going to have to go wash myself when I get done because I'm dirty just saying how entertaining he is. He's another one that doesn't shut the hell up, though. He doesn't know when he's going to piss somebody off in a dressing room somewhere. And Bruce even told him, you have an ass kicking coming, because he just doesn't ever shut the hell up. But he's funny as hell, man. And when he does this little dance in the ring, and I pee my freaking pants laughing because I can't even do it justice. It's like he stops in the middle of the ring and does this thing with his arms, and it's ridiculous. He's like a bargain basement honky tonk man, and and just like he's funny as hell, and believe me, as funny as he is and as entertaining he is talented. I mean, he's not a bag of crap in the ring, even though I like to tell him he is, and he's just annoying. He always comes up and he puts his arms around me, and he always wants to talk and wants to like. He's just annoying, but I love him to death, and he's a pain in the ass. But he is part of Team, Santee. So I mean, if Bruce is putting his stamp of approval on somebody, then you're worth a crap. And because Bruce doesn't put anybody over, nobody. He doesn't care if you headline WrestleMania. He's not going to put you over. So.
Wow. Well, that's pretty awesome stuff, though. I'm sure you'll be hearing from Maxwell Chicago at the next FUW show on Tuesday.
I'm sure I got a text message coming to my phone pretty soon here.
Right, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. All right, next one we're going to give you here is Big Vito LaGrasso.
Here we go. Hey, Big Vito, thank you so much, gimmick. Big Vito LaGrasso from Staten Island. No, man, Vito and I go way back. I've actually known Vito for a long time. I mean, the first time I had met Vito, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was when I went to go work for Carlos in Puerto Rico for World Wrestling Council. I was doing the, kind of Frankie Capone gimmick and, the Italian guy gimmick and the whole 9 yards. And I came walking in the door, and first words out of Vito's mouth, "Hey, you stole my gimmick." I didn't know what he was talking about. I wasn't doing a German guy, so I wasn't doing Skull on Frankie, so I didn't know what he was talking about. So I was like, I looked at him and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. I'm Frankie. And he goes, "Oh, would your grandmother make you do it?" And I was like, okay, that's two. I can't disrespect you because you're my vet. I don't like you now. I'm saying this all in my head. I don't like you. I was a big fan of your gimmick that you're doing. So all of this is spinning in my head. So that's how we got started. That's originally how our conversation started. So the entire tour that I was over there, he was a pain in my dick. He was shut up about doing my Italian gimmick. I was doing it first. You did it on TV. I did it first. You were doing Skull Von Crush. So that's a German gimmick. I didn't do anything German. I'm Italian, so I did the Italian thing. So to him, if you ever talk to Vito, if you ever have him on this show, I mean, God help you, but if you do, and he's on there, he will bring up, if you ever mention my name, he'll tell you that I stole his gimmick. And me and Vito talk all the time. We're buddies and so on. And we tagged a few times and so on. And he's really successful right now in Pennsylvania, doing he's kind of gotten out of the business a little bit, and he's doing, some other work and so on. I think he's got an acting job now, and he's doing a movie and so on. So he's actually doing well for himself. And he, believe it or not, as much as we banter back and forth and joke and crap on each other and blah, 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 he did teach me a lot. And he did help me out in the ring a lot as far as my in-ring work and my timing and so on, and really got me on the road to getting in the shape that I'm in now. It helped me out a lot with that and so on. So I do have that part to thank for him, or to him. I do rib him constantly, and he does the same to me. But honestly, in my opinion, if we didn't like each other, we wouldn't talk at all. So, but I've got all the respect in the world for his talent. He's incredible in the ring, but biggest pain in the ass in the world, again, but tremendous in the ring. And, again, the fact that he doesn't have a
he's still not working in some fashion of the business somewhere is just beyond my understanding. But what the hell do I know? So.
The next one we're going to give you is Pablo Marquez.
Wow, that's definitely another one of my favorites. Pablo Marquez, I'm really happy to see that he's back on top. I know he just won the CCW heavyweight title down in South Florida last month, I believe. I was just in the Bahamas with him, and I was just down in Ring Warriors with him. Probably one of the most respectful and nice guys that I've ever come across in the wrestling business. Almost so nice to a fault, I guess, if that could be even possible. But probably the most respectful individual and incredibly talented in the ring. I mean, I had in my opinion, one of my favorite matches so far in Ring Warriors, and one of my best matches in Ring Warriors against him. I mean, his timing is impeccable. His promo skills are spot on. And I don't know if a lot of people know this. I didn't know this until about a year ago. He was Babu in WWE, that Tiger Singh Ali, whatever the hell. I remember Babu.
Yeah.
And when somebody told me he was Babu, I was like, no, bull crap. And then I looked online, I was like, oh my God, that is Pablo. And I know he spent a lot of time in ECW early on, early ECW years. So he's just tremendous in the ring, and a guy that I would work 7 days a week. So
he is a super nice guy. He's a great guy. So cool to hear your stories on him. Next one I'll give you, we touched a little bit on earlier, but we'll bring it back. Deep South Wrestling.
I'm going to pull a name out of that. First off, is Bill DeMott. Bill had all the time in the world for me, and Deep South as a whole. They weren't bringing in a lot of non-contract guys, but I was definitely one of them, thanks in part to, Mike and Todd Shane and even Ron Nemi, because he was doing some commentary for them. But Mike and Todd Shane got me in touch with Bill DeMott. Bill really took a liking to me and kind of took me under his wing, and would go as far as on the days that we would tape TV, he would tell me to come in an hour early just so we could watch tape, watch my matches from the week before. He would critique me, and we became friends. And, he's still a guy I call a friend to this day, and we still keep in touch and so on. But the time that he spent with me was just, he didn't have to do that. I've got all the respect in the world for Bill. I am glad, again, to see that he's, I know he was on Tough Enough last season, and I know he's a trainer back at FCW now. So I'm really, really happy to see that he's back on top, because he does belong in the wrestling business in some way, shape, or form. He's probably the best coach that I've ever had, and still a guy to this day where if I, had a question about something, or I said, hey, Bill, I'm going to send you a link. Can you take a look at this match and critique it? He will. And in fact, we were texting the other day, about getting together for a beer in Tampa, because he's, of course, there most of the time now, with the FCW crew. So, but that whole crew, whether it was Dave Taylor, the entire Deep South crew, the boys, everybody from Mike Knox to Eric Perez to Festus, Luke Gallows, Micah Taylor. I mean, I met so many good friends up there and guys that are just so uber talented. That entire 2 years that I spent up there was just unreal to me, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
This is a guy that looks like he's making a reemergence into NWA Ring Warriors now, Buck Quartermain.
Yeah, Bucky's a guy, again, that I consider a really close friend and a mentor of sorts, and a guy that has known me since I first started in wrestling. I remember Buck when he was doing his gimmick called Dr. Buck Quartermain, and this was back in like the late 90s. Incredibly talented individual, one of the best teachers that I've ever seen. He's got the most patience of anybody I've ever seen. When he gets in the ring with young guys, I mean, it's just I don't have the patience for that kind of thing. But he will literally stand there and teach a kid how to take a body slam. If it takes all day, he'll stay in the ring all day. To get in the ring, his timing is great. He hasn't lost a step. He's one of those guys that should have been a main guy, in my opinion. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. But I mean, during his time, I remember turning on WWF, WCW, and seeing him on both telecasts. Going, this guy's everywhere, all the time in the world for him. I know he runs Wrestling for a Cause. Uses myself and a lot of the top Florida talent, to raise money for schools and sports programs and so on. So he's constantly giving back, to the community and just wrestling as a whole, and always is there to lend an ear and advice to the young guys, which is always something I love to see.
Yeah, and that's also always nice to hear, where someone kind of steps outside of themselves for, even if it's just for a minute, to kind of give back to the community or give back to a charity. You know, you see a lot of professional athletes do that in the NFL, NBA, stuff like that, and even even WWE. I mean, they obviously are big on the PR front too, but you don't really hear about it as much in the indie circle, maybe because it's just not on that grand scale where it's televised, stuff like that. But it is nice to hear when someone does kind of step out and do that. Another name I wanted to give you here, and that is going to be Frank Goodman, a.k.a. the Mass Maniac, who runs PWX.
Yeah, Frank Goodman runs some great shows with PWX in Orlando. He runs a very different show. He brings in a lot of WWE legends and ECW originals and so on, and really gives the fans a different type show. You know, he draws like gangbusters, and it amazes me the things he's able to get done. I mean, geez, just some of the names that he's brought in just recently have been Demolition, which, you know, I had the privilege and honor to be in the ring with. Steve Carino, another personal friend of mine, New Jack. Geez, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Too Cold Scorpio. Headbangers, this show coming up this Saturday on the 28th is going to be the Headbangers versus the Circle of Disrespect, myself and Simon Says, for the PWX tag belts. Frank Goodman is your modern day carny promoter, and it's amazing the stuff that he's able to get done. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. He always takes care of me. In fact, we're going to be going to New Jersey for him in Rahway in September, the end of September. I believe. So, but it's his shows draw like crazy, and the fans come out and they like to see, you know, the legends mixed in with the younger up and coming guys and so on and so forth, and it's just an all around good time. His shows always aren't the best wrestling wise, because there's some unusual stuff that goes on there that I'm not really certain. It's almost like a bad acid trip. Not that I've ever done acid, but I've heard.
Right.
Legitimately, I've never done acid, but I have heard it's very strange, and you see weird things, and like people's faces, and things turn into like mushrooms, and it's weird. That's
you know about it quite well.
Like a bad acid trip. Well, I've been in the pro wrestling business for a long time, so
okay.
I mean, imagine the kind of stuff that I've been around. But it's like Alice in Wonderland turned into pro wrestling. That's what his shows are. But they're a lot of fun, and he takes care of the guys. And his wife makes an incredible hamburger. They have concessions there, guys. I swear, if you ever make it down to Orlando, I spend most of my payday eating, because he's a Jewish guy, so he doesn't allow us to like take anything for free. So he makes us pay for everything. So if you guys are Jewish, I apologize. But anyway, no. Really. But if you are, it doesn't really make a difference. But she makes an incredible hamburger, and it's unbelievable. Between the hamburgers and the hot dogs, I swear I don't even give a damn about wrestling on the shows. I just want to eat. It's incredible.
Awesome stuff. I'm going to throw out one more here, and that's going to be, what is your most awkward ring moment?
Wow. I had one in my mind, but when I was driving back from Tampa today, another one came to mind. And it was during the IPW days, right? And I can't remember if I had won the IPW TV title at this point, or I think I had. And a good friend of mine, Rico Casanova, was in the ring and cutting a promo, and I came out swinging my dick and doing my thing, whatever I was doing, blase, blase, blase. It breaks down, right? Well, I thought it would have been a good idea to wear snap pants, like tearaway like track pants, right? Well, the big secret is, and it's not really a secret, is that I don't wear underwear. So I don't like underwear. I stopped wearing underwear at the IPW WrestlePlex, and it was 100 degrees, and my clothes would stick to me because it was miserably hot in there. So I stopped wearing underwear when I was during IPW. So it's like I hated it. So anyway, we do our thing, and it breaks down. Me and Rico are going at it. Ba, 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 hip toss, arm drag, body, ba, 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 get it again, hip toss, arm drag. Go to pick me up for the body slam, and as I'm coming up from the arm drag, I hear pop, 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 pop on the left leg. I go to feet around for the body slam. He goes to scoop me up. Pop, 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 pop up the right leg. My pants come completely undone and over my head as he body slams me. ass, cock, and balls everywhere, right? So I hear Pete Cannon, my brother from another mother, on the floor going, "Oh no, his junk is out." So instead of me staying on the mat, of course I got to get up in TV fashion and run around in circles with everything. My wear is flying everywhere, right? So it was a very small show, trust me. It wasn't like it was like a big thing and everyone was like, "Oh my God, he's got a big dick," because it wasn't that case. So wow. I'm running around in circles. I'm never going to get laid again because of the show now. Thanks, guys. So I'm running around in circles, and Rico's laughing. He's laughing his ass off, and he's like, "Bro, stop running, stop, drop, and roll, stop running." So I jump out of the ring, and in the front row are these. It looked like a shuffleboard group because it was these. I don't know where they came from, but there was old ladies sitting in the front row of the show. And I got no pants on at this point. They're completely off. And my dick is right in their face. And Pete is trying to take his jacket off, but he's so fat that he can't get his jacket off in time to freaking cover me up. So I go running back up the freaking aisle with my ass hanging out through the dressing room door, through the sliding doors, which the Green Boys didn't know that I was coming back through there, so they didn't know to open them yet. So I'm trying to struggle to open the freaking sliding doors. To get my naked, ridiculous ass through the door and back through the curtain, or back through the gorilla position. And I come through the door, and Ron Mimi is standing there, and he's like, "Why are you naked?" And that was just, the crowd was just in a hush, just in a complete and utter hush. The ring announcer comes out, and he's like, "Okay, well, so we're going to move on. We're going to be getting to the next match now." And he was everybody was discombobulated. They should have taken an intermission, because that's burned in your mind's eye, and you can never forget that.
That's actually a great story. It's our chat room saying that's just as good, if not better, than the other road story you shared. So thank you for that. All right, last one I want to give you is, what does the future hold for Francisco Ciatso?
Got a lot of things on the horizon coming up. I mean, just going to keep hanging and banging, having fun. Hopefully I get signed to a damn contract here soon. It'd be really nice to have, and, it'd be really nice to be rewarded for all my hard work and dedication and so on and so forth. But, I'm not going to sit here and give the canned answer of shooting for the stars. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and just keep working hard and having fun and entertaining the fans. City to city, border to border, and I'm going to pop Simon Says and Shooter Storm by saying this, going around the world and back again, fighting for peanuts and bragging rights, because that's what this is about. We have fun up and down the road, and it's because of, the fans and things like this, like the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour, that makes this fun and makes this business what it's about, and that's business having fun. Unfortunately, there's unfortunate events that happen. There were some things that happened this past weekend that anybody who's following Florida wrestling has been privy to. But at the end of the day, guys like Ron Nemi aren't going to be able to hold me back. No one's been able to hold me back in professional wrestling. When I first got started, guys said I was too small. You can't do this. You can't do that. Well, I proved everybody wrong. They said I'd never walk down the WWE rampway. I did that. TNA, England, China, Puerto Rico, Cayman Islands, Bahamas, Dominican Republic. So I've been all over the place, and I'm going to keep doing it. And like I said before earlier on, until it's not fun anymore. The day it stops being fun is the day you walk away. So that's what the future holds. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I do know that I'm going to take everything day by day and just keep working hard. And I really believe that if you work hard and you do good by people and you do right by people, then good things will happen. I surround myself with some of the best in the entire state. I wouldn't have it any other way. I work for every one of the biggest promotions, all the big promotions in Florida, whether it's Vintage, NWA Ring Warriors, Guild, FUW, USWA, all up and down the line, PWX. So, you name it, I'm there. And if that's not a testament to hard work and dedication, then really I don't know what is,
Right. And I think also one thing I wanted to touch on is I know we've had a lot of guests on this show, a lot of guests who know you personally. And the one thing that is a theme that everyone says about you is that they respect you. And, you can get to the top of the mountain, you can get to WWE, TNA, whatever, and that's all well and good. I'm sure, those people making a lot of money, what have you. But to get that respect from people, there's no price tag you can put on that. I think that's something that's just awesome that, we've heard countless times that your name always comes up in the respect area. So just wanted to let you know that. I'm sure you already know that. Just want to pass that along to you.
Well, I really appreciate it, guys. I mean, to be respected by your peers is the ultimate for me. Getting signed to a contract, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would love it, and it'd be great, and I'd make money and be a big star and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, when I walk into a locker room and a guy like the Marquis Bruce Santee or another good friend of mine, Cassidy Riley, who I hadn't seen in years, from TNA days, and to gain the respect of guys like that and Tokyo Monster Kahagis and so on, and to be able to walk into a locker room and all ribs aside, they respect you. That's humbling to me. To be put on the top of a mountain like that with those type of guys is great to me. I was taught by some of the best. I've had the opportunity to learn from guys like Bill DeMott, from guys like New Jack, Big Vito LaGrasso, Scotty Riggs. I mean, I've taken little bits from each one of those guys, and that's made me who I am. And just as those gentlemen respect me, I respect them. A guy like Marquis Bruce Santee or Kahagis, and so on. I have the ultimate infinite respect for those guys. Those guys are true pros, in my book. But truthfully and honestly, anybody that has the balls to put on a pair of boots and spandex tights and jump in a ring and entertain fans, I respect you for it. Not everybody's going to be good. Not everybody's going to be great. But anybody who does it and has the balls to do it, I have respect for you, because this isn't an easy business. It isn't an easy lifestyle. You go through wives, girlfriends, houses, cars, dogs, everybody, so it isn't an easy business. So anybody that can sustain life for any amount of time is definitely earned my respect. So, yeah, absolutely.
Very cool stuff. It's been great talking to you, the King of Florida, Francisco Ciatso. And we want to make sure that everyone listening tonight who is not familiar with you can certainly follow you on Twitter at Francisco Ciatso. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and also on Facebook as well. You have two pages. You have your main page and you have your fan page as well, so fans can just look you up right there too, right?
Yeah. Anybody who follows me on Twitter or is one of my friends on Facebook knows every morning, probably around 6 o'clock, they're going to get the coffee, Coke Zero, breakfast, heading to the gym, my 40,000 shows that I'm on, the fact of what's going on in the wrestling world, what's so on and so forth. So yeah, definitely look me up. I'm coming to a town near you, brother. All that good wrestling garbage. So.
Awesome, man. We could talk to you for hours. So hopefully sometime in the new year, we'd love to have you back on the show, as this has been one of our personal favorites as well. And it's just been great talking to you, and hopefully we'll have you back on again. And we certainly want to get a good drop out of you too before you head out here. So would you mind doing a quick drop for the show tonight? We can play on future shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, man. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Hey, guys, this is the King of Florida. We get cheese on each. King of Florida, Francisco Ciatso, do your job on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour.
Awesome, man. Great stuff. Again, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us. Was there anything else that you wanted to plug or kind of promote tonight before we kind of wrap things up?
Yeah. We got the PWX show coming up July 28th, the Orlando National Guard Armory. We'll see Circle of Disrespect, myself, and the Emerald Emperor Simon Says defending our PWX tag team titles against former WWF tag team champions, the Headbangers. Some of the other stars that are going to be on that card is a plethora of names. New Jack, Steve Carino, Too Cold Scorpio, some of the top indie talent in the entire state, like Off the Wall Sam Shaw, Rocky Santiago, so on and so forth. We've got a vintage pro wrestling event coming up August 11th. We touched on this during our pre-interview when you and I talked. When I was down in Ring Wars, there's some things that happened at the Vintage Show outside of wrestling business type stuff. And Ron Nemi, who used to be a really good friend of mine, did some things that weren't really on the up and up at the Vintage Show. And Vintage is a place that I've helped build, that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into, as well as Simon and the Vintage office and so on. And what Ron did wasn't cool, it wasn't right. But there's going to be some things changing on August 11th. So anybody in the Orlando area, come on out. support the vintage wrestling stars. We're going to set the record straight and do things right. This business is about respect. I know you guys talked about it earlier and touched on it earlier. I'm all about respect. What was done to me was disrespectful, and I'm not going to stand for that kind of stuff. And whether it's in a building, whether it's in a parking lot, it makes no difference. This isn't a wrestling promo. That's real life. I've eaten dinner at this guy's house, and just, follow my Facebook. There's getting ready to be a shoot interview that I did with the Full Sail crew here in Orlando. So take a look at that, guys, and maybe plug it on your website and take a look and listen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Been great having you on the show, like we said, and hopefully we'll do it all again soon. And best of luck to you, Frankie, as you are one of our personal favorites as well, and we're excited that we finally had you on the show. It's been a while.
Awesome, guys. Well, you guys, good luck to you with everything, and I'll continue to plug the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour because you guys are great, man. I really appreciate your professionalism. You guys take care, all right?
Awesome, buddy. Take care. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Bye.
All right, that was the King of Florida, Francisco Ciatso, live here on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour. An absolutely fantastic interview. So don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to wrap things up here live on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour on Blog Talk Radio.
Ho, ho, ho! It is the naughty list teasing, nice list pleasing, man of the season, the one and only Santa Claus. I know when you've been sleeping, I know when you've been awake, but for the life of me, I can't predict Cena's heel turn. You're listening to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour. Ho, 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 ho!
Welcome back to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour, live on Blog Talk Radio. I am the ConKaiserdor. Alongside with me is old school Avis Hathaway. And we were just joined by the King of Florida, Francisco Ciatso. Before I even get into that, that was the debut of our Santa Claus drop. For those of you that tune into our show, since we've started the show, we've had Santa Claus on every December. And since this is technically Christmas in July, what better month than now to debut the Santa Claus drop? So there it is, in full color, red and white there for our Do Your Job fans. So old school Avis Hathaway, I got to say, that was one of my favorite interviews. I know I kind of say that a lot these days, but, man, that was just that was a great interview.
I agree with you, and it seems like each week maybe the bar gets raised a little higher. Great guy to talk to. I mean, there was a ton of insight into the wrestling business there, his career, as well as, just the wrestling business in general. So it was a great interview. I'm sure there'll be another one that's going to do real well on archive listens. So thanks to everybody who listened. Be sure to tell everybody else about it if you didn't, if your friends didn't listen. And be sure to follow Francisco on Twitter at Francisco Ciatso.
As you want to keep tabs on him, as he's, like I said, one of the most respected guys in Florida, and his tweets are pretty amusing. Even on Facebook, what he said on the show is no lie. He does tweet his rituals in the morning, and they are amusing. So, there's a lot to the guy. He's got character. That's what's made him so successful beyond just being skilled in the ring, is he does have character. So make sure you check him out, and also make sure that you're following us on Twitter at Do Your Job with underscores between J.O.B, and like us on Facebook, as you want to keep tabs, as we have some huge upcoming shows. I mean, we're getting into August soon, but we still have another big show in July. Next Sunday, we're going to be joined by the former Future of Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Hardliners, Barrington Hughes and Jordan Rayner. They're going to be on the show. That's going to be huge, guy. We're going to have to reinforce the Do Your Job studios for those two. And then August 5th, which Frankie even mentioned it on the show, this name, we're going to have VIP Cassidy Riley coming on. He's a former TNA and WWE talent, now working a lot with Ring Warriors. So he'll be coming on. And then August 12th, we have a true ROH Ring of Honor pioneer in BJ Whitmer, and he's been all over the map. He's made his name in Japan, and we all know that making your name in Japan is no easy task. So he'll be on the show. Then August 19th, we're going to have Kirby Mack and Stony Hooker. For those of you that are familiar with them in their one match for WWE as Stansky and Rosenberg, they were dealt with by Ryback, so we're excited to have them on the show as Both guys are good independent wrestlers in their own right. And officially, we are going to announce it tonight, August 26th, our last show in the month of August. We're going to have on the show a former FIP, that's Full Impact Pro, formerly a sister promotion of Ring of Honor. He's also worked in Ring of Honor as well as FCW, the development territory of WWE. We're going to have our first Englishman on the show in Tommy Taylor. So we're very excited to have him on. He was actually trained by Dave Taylor, who worked in WCW as well as in Deep South as a trainer. So we're very excited to have him on the show. And that's just August, Old School. We haven't even broke into September yet.
No, the bookings are coming fast and furious. I know we're going to be, I can give a little hint that we're going to be bringing on somebody breaking into the state of Texas with our first guest. So, and lots to still announce.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. We're going to be breaking into the great state, the Lone Star state of Texas. So that's going to be huge because we haven't tapped into Texas yet. So we're very excited to do that. And also, Old School, September 23rd, we're not going to let the cat out of the bag yet because it's a pretty big cat. But I do want to say that's going to be our 2 years Old School anniversary show, and we're going to have a 2-hour spectacular.
Yeah, it's going to be our 2-year anniversary show. We're going to have a notoriously big-name guest on the show, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Notorious, like that, right?
We'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. It's going to be a huge show. As you know, right here in the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour, we bring it. So make sure you check out some of our previous shows on demand. There's some great shows out there. Just fantastic show. Just go to our website, blogtalkradio.com/doyourjob. Just scroll through the list. You can stream it right from your mobile device. Take it with you on the go. Download it right to your iPod. Listen to it in the car. There's so many ways to listen to the show if you can't tune in live, so don't worry. You can take us with you on the go. That is for sure. So for Old School Avis Hathaway and myself, the ConKaiserdor, we're going to say goodnight, and we will see you next Sunday with the former Future of Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Hardliners. Good night, everybody.